Howdy, folks! It's Tuesday, March 24th, and we're going to be reading Chapter 6 today. Why am I wearing a Jessie hat from Toy Story, holding Bullseye, and wearing a Buzz Lightyear jacket? I can't answer you that, other than I got my Pizza Planet cup, so I thought, hey, let's play the whole part. Have some fun, right? Right? I think I'm going a little crazy. Do you guys think I'm going crazy? Don't answer that. Okay. We're going to read Chapter 6. Chapter 6 is a little long. So what just happened? So much has happened in Chapter 5. Diggory and Polly were trying to escape the queen, right? Or the queen, the witch, because she was trying to follow them as they were leaving. They quickly touched their rings, and that is where we left off. Chapter 6 is titled, The Beginnings of Uncle Andrew's Troubles. Let go, screamed Polly. I'm not touching you, said Diggory. Then their heads came out of the pool, and once more the sunny quietness of the wood between the worlds was all about them. And it seemed richer and warmer and much more peaceful than ever before after the staleness and the ruin of the place they had just left. I think that if they had been given the chance, they would have again forgotten who they were and where they came from, and would have lain down and enjoyed themselves, half asleep, listening to the growing of trees. But this time there was something that kept them wide awake as possible, for as soon as they had got onto the grass, they found that they were not alone. The queen, or witch, whichever you prefer to call her, had come up with them, holding on fast by Polly's hair. That's why Polly had been shouting, "Let go." This proved, by the way, another thing about the rings which Uncle Andrew hadn't told Diggory, because he didn't know it himself. In order to jump from one world to another world by using one of those rings, you don't need to be wearing or touching it yourself. It is enough if you are touching someone who is touching it. In that way, they work like a magnet, and everyone knows that if you pick up a pin with a magnet, any other pin which is touching the first pin will come too. Now that you saw her in the wood, Queen Jadis looked different. She was much paler than she had been, so pale that hardly any of her beauty was left. And she was stooped and seemed to be finding it hard to breathe, as if the air in the place stifled her. Neither of the children felt in least afraid of her now. Let go of my hair, said Polly. What do you mean by it? Here, let go of her hair at once, said Diggory. They both turned and struggled with her. They were stronger than she. In a few seconds they had forced her to let go. She reeled back, panting, and there was a look of terror in her eyes. Quick, Diggory, said Polly, change rings and into the home pool. Help! Help! Mercy! Cried the witch in a faint voice, staggering after them. Take me with you. You cannot mean to leave me here in this horrible place. It's killing me. It's a reason of state, said Polly spitefully, like when you killed all those people in your own world. Do be quick, Diggory. They had put on their green rings, but Diggory said, Oh, bother, what are we going to do? He couldn't help but feel a little sorry for the queen. Oh, don't be such an ass, said Polly. Yes, that's literally in the book. You're allowed to giggle, because I think it's funny too. 10-1, she's only shaming. Do come on. And then both the children plunged into the home pool. It's a good thing we made that mark, thought Polly. But as they jumped, Diggory felt that a large, cold finger and thumb had caught him by the ear. And as they sank down into the confused shapes of our own world began to appear, and the grip of that finger and thumb grew stronger. The witch was apparently recovering her strength. Diggory struggled and kicked, but it was not of the least of use. In that moment, they found themselves in Uncle Andrew's study, and there was Uncle Andrew himself, staring at a wonderful creature that Diggory had brought back from the beyond world. And well, he might stare. Diggory and Polly stared too, and there was no doubt that the witch had got over her faintness, and now that the one saw her in her own world, with ordinary things around her, she fairly took one's breath away. In Charn she had been alarming enough. In London, she was terrifying. For one thing, they not realized till now how very big she was. Hardly human is what Diggory thought when he looked at her, and he may have been right, for some say there is giantish blood in the royal family of Charn. But even her height was nothing compared with her beauty. her fierceness, and her wildness. She looked 10 times more alive than most people one meets in London. Uncle Andrew was bowing and rubbing his hands and looking, to tell the truth, extremely frightened. He seemed a little shrimp of a creature beside the witch. And yet, as Polly said afterward, there was sort of a likeness between her face and his. Something in the expression. It was the look that all wicked magicians have, the mark, which Jadis had said she could not find on Diggory's face. One good thing about seeing the two together was that you would never again be afraid of Uncle Andrew, any more than you'd be afraid of a worm after you'd met a rattlesnake, or afraid of a cow after you'd met a mad bull. Pooh, thought Diggory to himself. Him, a magician? Not much. She's the real thing. Uncle Andrew kept rubbing his hands and bowing. He was trying to say something, but polite, but his mouth had gone all dry that he could not speak. His experiment with the rings, as he called it, was turning out more successful than he had liked, for he thought he dabbled in magic. For years he had always left all the dangers, as far as one can, to other people. Nothing at all like this had ever happened to him before. Then Jadis spoke, not very loud, but there was something in her voice that made the whole room quiver. Here is a picture of Uncle Andrew bowing and Jadis looking much taller than he is, all pretty with her crown and robes and garments and whatever. The whole world quivers. Oh, where is the magician who has called me into this world? Madam, gasped Uncle Andrew, I am most honored, highly gratified. A most unexpected pleasure. If only I had the opportunity of making preparations. Where is the magician, fool? Said Jadis. I am, madam. I hope you'll excuse, any liberty these naughty children may have taken. I assure you there was no intention. You, said the queen, in a still more terrible voice. Then, in one stride, she crossed the room, seized a great handful of Uncle Andrew's gray hair, and pulled his head back so that his face looked up into hers. Then she studied his face, just as she had studied Diggory's face in the Palace of Charm. He blinked and licked his lips nervously all the time. And at last she let go, so sudden that he reeled back against the wall. There's her pulling his hair back to make him look up. Looks uncomfortable. Looks like it hurts. She does look pretty, though. I see, she said scornfully. You are a magician of sort. Stand up, dog, and don't sprawl there as if you were speaking to your equals. How do you come to know magic? You are not of royal blood, I'll swear. Well, perhaps not in the strict sense, stammered Uncle Andrew. Not exactly royal, ma'am, but the Ketterleys are, however, a very old family, an old Dorsetshire family, ma'am. Peace, said the witch. I see what you are. You are a little peddling magician who works by rules and books. There's no real magic in your blood and heart. Your kind was made an end of my world 1,000 years ago, but here I shall allow you to be my servant. I should be most happy, delighted to be of any service and pleasure, I assure you. Peace, you talk far too much. Listen to your first task. I see we are in a large city. Procure for me at once a chariot, or flying carpet, or a well-trained dragon, or whatever is usual for royal and noble persons in your land. Then bring me to places where I can get clothes and jewels and slaves fit for my rank. Tomorrow I will begin to conquest the world. My hair is bugging me, I'm sorry. It's the hat. I'll go and order a cab at once, gasped Uncle Andrew. Stop, said the witch, just as he reached the door. Do not dream of treachery. My eyes can see through walls and the minds of men. They will be on you wherever you go, and at the first sign of disobedience I will lay such spells on you that anything you sit on will feel like a red-hot iron, and whenever you lie down in a bed, there will be an invisible blocks of ice at your feet. Now go. The old man went out, looking like a dog with a tail between his legs. The children were now afraid that Jadis would have something to say to them about what had happened in the wood. As it turned out, however, she never mentioned it either then or afterward. I think, and Diggory thinks too, that her mind was sort of which cannot remember that quiet place at all. And however often you took her there and however often you left her there, she would still know nothing about it. Now she was left alone with the children. She took no notice of either of them, and it was like her, too. In Charn, she had taken no notice of Polly, till the very end, because Diggory was the one she wanted to make use of. Now that she had Uncle Andrew, she took no notice of Diggory. I expect most witches are like that. They're not interested in things or people unless they can use them. They are terribly practical. So there was a silence in the room for a minute or two. But you could tell by the way Jadis tapped her foot on the floor that she was growing impatient. Presently she said, as if to herself, "What is that old fool doing? I should have brought a whip." She stalked out of the room in pursuit of Uncle Andrew without one glance to the children. "Phew," said Polly, letting out a long breath of relief. "Now I must get home. It's frighteningly late. I shall catch it." "Well, do come back as soon as you can," said Diggory. "This is simply ghastly, having her here. We must make some sort of plan." "Then it's up to your uncle now," said Polly. It was he who started all this messing about with magic." "All the same, will you come back, won't you? Hang it all, you can't leave me alone in a scrape like this." "I shall go home by the tunnel," said Polly rather coldly. "That'll be the quickest way. And if you want me to come back, hadn't you better say you're sorry?" "Sorry?" exclaimed Diggory. "Well, now, isn't that just like a girl? What have I done?" "Oh, nothing, of course," said Polly sarcastically. "Only nearly screwed my wrist off in that room with all the waxworks like a cowardly bully. Only struck the bell with a hammer like a silly idiot. Only turned back in the wood so that she had time to catch hold of you before we jumped into our own pool. That's all." "Oh," said Diggory, very surprised. "Well, all right, I'll say I'm sorry. And I'm really sorry about what happened in the waxworks rooms. There, I've said I'm sorry. And now, do be decent and come back. I shall be frightened whole if you don't." "I don't see what's going to happen to you. It's Mr. Ketterly who's going to get to sit on hot red chairs and have ice in his bed, isn't it?" "It isn't that sort of thing," said Diggory. "What I'm bothered about is Mother. Suppose that creature went into her room. She might frighten her to death." "Oh, I see," said Polly in a rather different voice. "All right, we'll call it Pax. I'll come back if I can. But I must go now." And she crawled through the little door in the tunnel, and in that dark place among the rafters, which had seemed so exciting and adventurous a few hours ago, seemed quite tame and homely now. We must go back to Uncle Andrew. His poor old heart went pit-a-pat as he staggered down the attic stairs and kept on dabbing at his forehead with his handkerchief. When he reached his bedroom, which was on the floor below, he locked himself in, and the very first thing he did was to grope in his wardrobe for a bottle and a wine-glass, which he had always kept hidden there, where Aunt Letty could not find them. He poured himself a glassful of some nasty grown-up drink and drank it off in one gulp. He drew a deep breath. "Upon my word," he said to himself, "I'm dreadfully shaken, most upsetting, and at my time of life." He poured out a second glass and drank it too, and he began to change his clothes. You have never seen such clothes, but I can remember them. He put on a very high, shiny, stiff collar of the sort, and they made you hold your chin up all the time. He put on a white waistcoat with a pattern on it and arranged his gold watch chain across the front. He had put on his best frock coat, one that he kept for weddings and funerals. He got out his best tall hat and polished it up. There was a vase of flowers, put there by Aunt Letty, on his dressing table. He took one and put it in his buttonhole. He took a clean handkerchief, a lovely one, as such you couldn't buy today, out of the left-hand drawer and put a few drops of scent on it. He took his eyeglass with a thick black ribbon and screwed it into his eye, and then he took a look at himself in the mirror. Children have one kind of silliness, you see, and grown-ups have another kind. At this moment, Uncle Andrew was beginning to be silly in a very grown-up way. Now that the witch was no longer in the same room with him, he was quickly forgetting how she had frightened him and how thinking more and more of her wonderful beauty. He kept on saying to himself, "A dem fine woman, sir, a dem fine woman. A superb creature." He had also somehow managed to forget that it was the children who had got a hold of this superb creature. He had felt he himself by his magic had called her out of his unknown world. "Andrew, my boy," he said to himself as he looked in the glass, "you're a devilish well-preserved fellow for your age. A distinguished-looking man, sir." You see, the foolish old man was actually beginning to imagine that the witch would fall in love with him. The 2 drinks probably had something to do with it, and so had his best clothes. But he was, in any case, as vain as a peacock, and that is why he became a magician. He unlocked the door, went downstairs, sent the housemaid out to fetch a hansom — everyone had lots of servants in those days — and looked into the drawing room. There, as he expected, he found Aunt Letty. She was busily mending a mattress. It lay on the floor near the window, and she was kneeling on it. "Ah, Leticia, my dear," said Uncle Andrew, I have to go out. Lend me just £5 or so. There's a good Jill." Jill is the way he pronounced the word girl. "No, Andrew dear," said Aunt Letty, as she, in her firm, quiet voice, without looking up from the work, "I've told you times without number that I will not lend you money." Just picture of Aunt Letty working on the mattress. Pretty cool. There's a kitty cat. They don't mention the cat. I just pointed out the cat. Sorry, bullseye fell. Okay, we're back to it. "Now, pray don't be troublesome, my dear Jill," said Uncle Andrew. "It's most important. You'll put me in a deucedly awkward position if you don't." "Andrew," said Aunt Letty, looking at him with a straight face, "I wonder you are not ashamed to ask me for money." There was a long, dull story of a grown-up behind these kind of words. All you need to know about it is that Uncle Andrew, what with managing dear Letty's business matters for her, and never doing any work, and running up large bills for brandy and cigars, which Aunt Letty had paid for again and again, had made her a good deal poorer than she had been 30 years ago. "My dear Jill," said Uncle Andrew, "you don't understand. I have some quite unexpected expenses today. I have to do a little entertaining. Come now, don't be tiresome." "And who, pray, are you going to entertain, Andrew?" said Aunt Letty. A most distinguished visitor has just arrived." "Distinguished fiddlesticks," said Aunt Letty. "There hasn't been a ring at the bell for the last hour." And at that moment, the door was suddenly flung open. Aunt Letty looked round and saw with amazement that an enormous woman, splendidly dressed, with bare arms and flashing eyes, stood in the doorway. It was the witch. And that's the end of chapter 6, folks. Chapter 7 starts, or is titled, "What Happened at the Front Door." Ooh, so exciting. Oh, my sister ended up going back to her hospital, but she wrote me a note. She said, "I love you, sis," on the book, because she knows I'm reading these videos. Okay. Anyways, that was chapter 6 of our book. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed my Buzz Lightyear jacket. I'm a space ranger. Lightyear. See it? My Jessie hat. That's Dusty. I apologize. And then Bullseye. So, bye. Oh, also, love and support you.